On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
When you take that into consideration, again, to answer your question, it comes back to I think that is more difficult as women age than it is for men. That's not to say that it's not difficult for men and women, but I think that it's more difficult for women as they age than it is for men.
Yeah.
But welcome to Lapeef, Let's Talk. If you're just joining us, we are on our last topic, which is single at 35. Is it a choice or are they a problem? Single at 35, a choice or are they the problem? So the reason this came up is because I feel like a lot of people around the age of 35, if they're single, I'm kind of questioning if it's by choice or if they're having a hard time and they just don't really come to terms with it. So I just want to kind of open that question up on the table while we still got this energy. Larisha, single at 35, a choice or are they a problem? Your thoughts?
I think it can be a little bit of both. Some people, like I know I had a lot of girlfriends who wanted to be married, have kids by the age, and it's like they working against their time clock, right? And then I have another group that are in no rush, close to 40, and are like, no, I'm good. Like I'm happy. So I just think it depends on the person. Now, if you have like haven't had any successful relationships, then that might be an issue, right? But if you're just single by choice and or you just got out of this relationship for whatever reason, so I just think it depends on the person and the situation, but ultimately it is that person's choice.
Hmm.
Tawana, single at 35, a choice or are they the problem?
Um, Listen, I don't want to assume that just because somebody's 35, they want to be in a relationship. So I have a hard time, answering that because I don't want to say, yeah, I'm 30. Women, all women who are 35, they want to be in a relationship at this time, or all men who are 35, they're. I agree with what Larisha said because I feel like it's true. Like if you haven't had a successful relationship and you've been in multiple and you're 35, then yes, that could be you are the problem. Because and if you want that, right? If you want a successful relationship, but you've been unable to maintain one, and now you're 35 and it's still a challenge for you, maybe that is something you need to start researching and looking into and trying to figure out how can I develop these skills to be in a successful relationship. Yes, I think that's an age where you get enlightened and you're like, wait a minute, I'm over that 30 hump. I need to start, thinking about life differently. So yes, I do think that to some degree, it might not be a choice. It might be because you don't have the skills to successfully be and partner in a relationship. And that is something that's bigger than just a choice, right? That's like, I cannot have a successful relationship in my life, and I don't know how to partner with somebody. And if that is a goal of yours and you're having trouble with it, then yes, that's something that I think you can get help. But remember, it's 35 years of this kind of issue, or maybe you're shorter than that because you don't start a relationship when out the womb. But yes, it's years of you not knowing how to do this, so it's going to take years of you to get to this level that you need to get to. So I think that you're right that yeah, it could be it could be a problem. It could be something that really needs to be addressed. Do I say that people who are 35 and they're single, something's wrong with them? No, I don't. I don't want to present that, and I do want to redirect that narrative because that is not necessarily true. And there could be many different factors. Yeah, like she said, just freshly out of a relationship, it could be a choice. Especially if you were married for a long time and then maybe you divorced now, maybe you just don't want to be in a relationship. Like it's so many circumstances that you could be 35 and not in a relationship or single. And it is a choice, very much so. But yeah, absolutely. I think that, if you struggle with relationships, you're 35 and you haven't had a successful one and you 35 and you're still struggling, like that's probably not a choice no more, honey. It's probably a problem that you need to like start to research and figure it out. So yes, um, you know, I guess I got mixed opinions about it. You muted, JR. You muted.
First time I'm muted. I said I'm gonna answer that question. Single at 35, a choice or are they the problem? I want to lean more on that there might be a problem. It might not be them, but it could have been them, and so now they have no choice. That could be the situation as well. I mean, you have someone that has been living it up all through the 20s and early 30s, and then now that they're at 35, they're looking for a relationship and they're having a hard time for whatever reason. Then you may have people that are in relationships that been into about 2 or 3 relationships, and they might have been the problem. And then you might have somebody that's been in 2 or 3 relationships that might have kicked it in their 20s and early 30s and been in a couple of relationships, never took it serious, so to speak, and then now that they are 35, they are having a hard time because there was a underlying issue with them that they never saw, and it's a pattern that just keep repeating itself, insecurities, whatever the case may be, and they're carrying it over until the mid 30s. So,
Right.
I think a lot of people sometimes at their age have to look back and understand and try to see, is there a possibility that they're not in a stable relationship, or their future is not the way that they anticipated it to be because of them. It could be the other person, but sometimes it's usually a cause and effect. So sometimes it may have been something you may have not been doing. You may not have been communicating well. You might have been doing everything else well, but maybe that's the issue. Maybe it could have been the sex. Maybe it could have been you were doing you for the most time. We don't know, but I do think it's something to consider. You may not have to blame yourself, but at the age of 35, man or woman, I think that we all have to consider that. And time. Single at 35, a choice or are they the problem?
You don't really want to know my answer, fam.
I do.
You
I
really
want to
don't.
answer.
You really don't want to know my answer, bro. And maybe you should let Larisha answer, bro. Honestly, because
I think once you
all
hit
right, listen.
50, it's a problem. But
No,
Oh, they're gonna be there.
I think that it becomes a problem for a lot of women once they start hitting 30. And I think for men, it becomes more of a choice. For women, it becomes more of a struggle. And again, I think that that's more or less aligned with, and a lot of people don't like this, but the sexual marketplace value as it relates to the things that men desire versus the things that women desire. I think that women's marketplace value significantly decreases as they age versus men whose marketplace value significantly increases as they age. You don't see a lot of relationships of really younger men getting married to really older women, but vice versa, you see older men marrying younger women. And the reason that is because the things that men desire, especially if you're a man of valuable high resources, you have more options as you age because your earning potential goes up, thus your sexual marketplace value goes higher. Whereas for women, they'll never be greater in most instances than they were in their late 20s. And so as they age, the things that men desire out of women decreases versus for men it increases. But conversely, the things that men want from women, like women peak really early when men are very, very low in the sexual marketplace value. It's funny because if we had this conversation the other day in my living room, and we was like, man, well, how come certain women was able to snag the Denzels? Well, they snagged them very early in their career before they ever became what they are today. But if you become what you are today prior to you getting them earlier in their career, it's a lot more difficult to become that woman that guy at that height is desiring especially when you look at who it is that they married to today. So when you take that into consideration, again, to answer your question, it comes back to I think that is more difficult as women age than it is for men. That's not to say that it's not difficult for men and women, but I think that it's more difficult for women as they age than it is for men.
Yeah, I think it's a
I
double
hope you know.
standard, like Anton was saying, because think about it. We're even no one kind of articulated it until Anton mentioned it. But are we talking about being 35 years of age as a man or 35 years of age as a woman? I think no one really even has any thoughts about a 35-year-old man that's single. It's just like, okay, it's so normalized that it's not even worth a discussion to say like, hey, how do y'all feel about 35-year-old man that's single? It's like, okay, the same way I feel about a 30-year-old man that's single, a 40-year-old man that's single, a 25-year-old man that's single. But it really is a thing with women. And I think a lot of this kind of goes back to just us having different bodies as far as being able to reproduce. This also kind of comes up with, pregnancy as well. Because even though we're not talking about that, but it's like, hey, if you're single, that's also saying, even though that's not part of the question, but did you create a family by age 35 also? And I think that would be kind of like a more kind of pointed kind of direction of this conversation. Because now we're talking about, did you build a family? Because then now it gives more context to say like, oh, you're single. So that means you never developed your family, which meant that you have to have a relationship in order to have this family, So, and I think that the thing that we have oversight of that, even if we're talking about 35, but we're talking about 2021, I also feel there's a factor is there's someone that's now at a stage where they're questioning their sexual orientation as well, and I think that's something that we don't talk about it, but there is an aspect of people that are still questioning their sexuality as they get older, where they now are owning who they are. And while we think like, oh, something must be wrong with this person. Yeah, from the toxic aspect, I think sometimes that gets kind of like oversaturated with thinking everything's toxic. If anything, it may be someone that's really, really figuring out who they are and what's their sexual preference as they get older. Because we feel like whoever you are, man or woman, you own who you are once you reach a certain age, like a 35 and a 40. You'd be like, yeah, you know what, this whole time? Yeah, you know what? That's why I was single, because I'm gay. So the thing is, I think
that's serious. That's because I had an uncle. We did not know he was gay, and he had a partner, but he never brought. So we like thought he was just a single man. Like we like, what is going on? Like you ain't gonna have no kids, or what's going on?
But see, for a man, it gets
we
suppressed.
We thought it was weird.
Still.
We thought it was weird too, because we don't never see nobody around. Like what's going on? You're not gonna have a kid, and then. And when he died, then I was like, wait, he had a partner for 16? What's going on?
Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. So for our audience, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm open whatever folks' sexual orientation. But there's also something that is a variable when we think about somebody being 35 and single. It's not a matter of something being wrong, but that's another layer that I think we need to consider. But I think we do look at it like, I think as a woman, you probably need to be more strategic in those younger years after you're looking at this kind of this idealistic perception that you want to fulfill from your parents or from family or from friends. Honestly, like, men can get away with being almost 45, 50, 55 years old, still single. Hell, they may have a roommate. Who cares? Because they're men. If we have a woman that's 35, like, man, you still got roommates? It's totally viewed, the perception is totally like double jeopardy. But I think there's more so like if somebody's single, it's just more so saying that I think at that stage, even though we see people having children at older ages, I think they've committed to say that, you know what, hey, children may not be my thing. I think not necessarily single, but around that age, as you would decide like, hey, I've decided that I'm not going to pursue having kids naturally.
Well, you know what, though? A lot of people are deciding not to have children.
Yeah.
Like, I have several friends that don't want to have children. And I thought it was weird because, like, I'm popping out all these kids, right? But they don't want to have children. And they are very, like, strict about that. And some people are like, no,
But-
like I'm gonna
but
take
because
birth
of-
control for the
But
rest of my
because the
life if I
reproduction
have to.
thing, you feel like, hey, I got to partner up. You know what I mean? I
Right.
gotta be strategic on how.
But
I
if
wanna
you don't
map
want to
this
have
out.
children, you may not feel that way. You may be like, I can wait till I'm 40, or you know what I'm saying? Like, so I guess we can't always assume that, right? Because they're 35, it wasn't a choice to just be single. I guess that's the question. I feel like more so than is something wrong, right? It's just like, can we say that I'm 35 and it's and I know like we like to separate sexes. I purposely don't do that, but I do get the point. Like women, you know, it's considered a geriatric pregnancy at 35. It's like that word is such an old word. It's like, why even say that,
No
right?
one cares if a man is 35 and single.
Nobody
It's
cares.
a non-issue.
But when you're over 35 and you want to have a child, you know, it's like almost like you're on, you know, bed rest, you know.
But
It's
Anton brings up a point. The
so
thing
that's
is, historically, men do date younger. So the thing is, like, far as how, like, men are very physical beings on how they look at that. I don't think women, I mean, it is about attraction. Don't get me wrong. But the thing is, we all know that we don't look the same way we looked 10 years ago when I was 20 or whatever. Like, hell, I had hair. You know what I mean? That's something that I came to understand. I don't look the same way.
oh, that's not a choice. That's a problem.
Genetics. But all this is genetics. But for a man, we've seen it regardless of what ethnicity, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, men tend to date younger. So the thing is, by the time a man finally decides, like, hey, I want to be married. And I know I always use my father as an example. He was like 45, 50 by the time he decided to say, like, yeah, I finally want to get married. At the age of 50, the right age of 50. But guess what? He dated younger, right? So the thing is like men aren't usually looking for someone in their peer group when they finally decide to date younger, unless it's just something that strategically happened during that window of time between that 20 to 30 age range, if not younger, you know?
Right.
Well, it's same age younger, because a lot of men date the same age, you know.
Yeah, I think
mean, that's not younger. That's your same age.
But I don't know. I think it still is a gap. Like people have a range, I think, and maybe that'd be for another topic, JR. But I think people date within a certain range. Some people may be a 5-year range, 10-year range. Hell, it might be 20-year range for some people. Some people don't do it. Some people do. But I think men tend to date outside of their peer group more than women.
Or when she turned 50, you can trade her in for 225s and then call it a day.
If you got the stamina.
Hey, man, I got pills for that.
They don't.
Not for women.
They don't. Them pills don't work like that.
But see, that shows how slanted it is.
Horny goat don't work that good.
They got pills for women.
Horny goat don't work that good. I'm telling you, y'all gotta stay within your little range. That's what
that sounds like that gas station stuff.
Yeah, that is. That's what I used to work at a gas station. I used to work at a gas station, and no man used to come for that horny goat every day. Like, can I get some horny goat? I'm like, dang. So like, they need it like a drug. So and it's cheaper than I guess the blue pill. So people come in there.
Women not about to go to no gas station for no whatever.
They need the K1 jelly.
Pink passion.
They need the K1 jelly. It get dry. It gets real dry. You can sometimes you need that as you get older. So it's things that happen. It's things that happen.
This conversation is above my pay grade, bro.
Hey, we talking about
we talking about man.
Y'all the ones who brought up the sexes.
Dry
We
cats
could
and
have
blue
just
pills.
kept it on the 35. Y'all want to separate us, talk about the men and women. So we could have just kept it on the 35.
No, let's be honest. No one cares if a man is 35 and single. And oh no, women, you're on the call. Is this a thing for women? If man, he's 35 and he's single. Something ain't right.
Nobody cares.
No
one cares.
In fact, they may look at him. They look more at him probably as a hot commodity. That he's 35, no kids, single. Oh, girl, he don't got no kids.
Like, wow.
Single.
The no kids make you a hot commodity.
It's a little different for women. Oh, she's
no
35. Can she have kids? Is something wrong with her? So it is very different. depending on the gender. But yeah, nobody's questioning whether 35-year-old man is single. Like I said, for women, he's a hot commodity. Oh, no kids? Okay. He's 35, he's single.
That's why they gonna be. That's why they 60 years old. That's why they 60 years old.
Don't have a family.
That's why they 60-year-old raising 8-year-olds. Come on now, like you too old. Have kids when you're young. Like I do think we should start telling men like that's not cute to be 60 and with an 8-year-old. Like that's not cute.
You can't tell us that because we at the top of our desirability.
My son is older than his uncle.
But going back to something about the ability,
not always at the top now.
Now.
If you 40 and above and you got yourself together and you fit and you look decent and you carry yourself
and your money is long, let's be clear. Your money better be long.
But you just spoke to my whole sexual marketplace value theory. It's accurate.
Because this goes down.
Oh yeah.
So you need something to hold that attention.
Whatever. I mean, okay.
Maybe you can buy another one if you got money. Eventually, we need you to replace that one.
It don't go down if you fit and you got yourself together. Not even a little bit.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Not even a little bit.
All right, so like, is it safe to say? Okay, you guys, like, is it safe to say that when it comes to men, 35 and up, that it's not an issue, but if a woman's 35 and up and single, that it's a problem?
No, I'm not saying that. Y'all go
I'm
ahead
saying if she wants kids and all that other stuff.
What about you, Nix? 35 and up, man, good. 35 and up women, issue.
Yeah, I think it's the issue depending on what my expectations are, like what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
Women, you have until 40. I want to put that out there. Okay, you can have children, and you can have healthy children until the age of 40. I am 37.
We ain't talking about the children. We just talking about it. We just trying to figure out if it was an issue.
No, Larisha said.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The issue varies.
Right.
Yeah.
The issue varies.
Yeah. Larisha said if you want to have children, JR. That's why I said it. That's why I was speaking to her point. Gotcha. Hey, women, you have until 40.
Hey, just because you're 35 to me, that don't mean nothing. I'm automatically not going to assume that, hey, you 35, oh, man, something ain't right. She toxic. I can't say that.
Well, I mean,
I think you got more of an issue if you're 35 with children versus 35 and truly single without children. That should have been the topic. Hey, you got
she could have got abortions.
Kids
versus 35 she could have got all abortions.
That's a whole nother topic. Huh?
JR thought she could have got abortion.
No, JR it's a whole nother.
Like if she hey, Nix, if she ain't got 8 abortions, hey.
JR, you are a hot mess.
It's real. It's real.
What you gonna ask somebody like? So how many abortions?
No, she ain't gonna say. No, she ain't gonna tell you the truth. You got to find that out. Like her best friend. Like her best friend had to sneak this and tell you.
So now we automatically, if she's 35, she gotta have at least a couple of abortions on her.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if she had, like, the fact that you said that she's 35, it might be an issue. But there are some responsible women that move around in a certain way, and they want to keep moving around so they don't have no kids. But when she turns, when she turns 35 with no kids, you still have to evaluate that situation as if she do have kids. I think that at the age of 35, you single, you got to kind of get that history report. Like, okay, what's been going on? When the last time you been in a relationship? How long was their relationship? Because it might be something there, especially if you're looking to pursue her. I think that you got to look into your.
Can I ask, like, why is 35 significant?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's the danger zone, bro. Like women approaching middle age. Like okay, so we have this hypothetical.
Not there yet. I can see
wait.
I said approaching middle age.
What age is middle age though? Because I'm like
in your 40s. In your 40s is generally middle age. Or if you're approaching middle age, that's generally the danger zone for women. So we had a general consensus, or like a bunch of guys that kind of said what their thoughts are as far as dating, and the general consensus is either she's younger in which she looks the best that she possibly ever will, as far as like in her 20s, or you skip the whole like maybe 32 up through like 47, and then or you go 50 and above. So it's either in the 20s or 50 and above, because usually if she's 50 and above, you're more able to more accurately evaluate who she's become.
Yeah.
But the general consensus is, for a lot of guys that I know, is the danger zone in the 30s and 40s for women, as far as their interest in women.
You know, I was never aware of these danger zones until I became part of this group.
News to me.
I went into life like, I don't care if I'm 50, I'm gonna find me a man. I guess I have a rude awakening.
Right.
So, I guess I wasn't aware.
Well, look, only the brave will step to
Oh,
the danger
there you
zone.
go.
So that's all I need.
Well, let me tell you something.
Yeah, I think I need more friends.
Y'all
Anton.
still look like
I
y'all
don't
in
even
y'all
think-
20s,
I
so
don't even
y'all
think my
good.
friends
They
care.
say if you look like you in your 20s, you still might get a man. So y'all all right. Don't worry about it.
I think I need a different circle of friends at a time. My friends don't care.
Your friends don't care about age? You saying, B-Nix, you saying your friends don't
Hey.
care about age? Not really?
No. No.
I think the biggest thing for a lot of
It's men
guys,
out here who don't.
the biggest thing for a lot of guys, and not all guys, obviously, because there's people that get in relationships in all kind of circumstances. So it's not a one size fits all. But a lot of guys was saying, as it relates to that specific statement, a couple things. The main thing is that they didn't necessarily want to take care of another guy's kids, especially at a younger age. Like when a kid ages out, or they get to a point to where they're self-sufficient and they're grown and they're no longer subjected to the whole stepdaddy thing, then it becomes a little bit more acceptable and a lot less messy, so to speak, from their perspective, as far as having to deal with a certain type of situation that they would usually find themselves in. So I don't know.
I guess I
Understandable.
have a different experience, you guys. So I don't want to speak as if this is the rule. It could be the exception, but I definitely had children when I entered into my relationship, and my man had never dated a woman with children ever. So
That's what I'm saying.
It was a very
I'm not
situation.
necessarily saying that that's true for everybody and nothing, and I don't like to put a
No, I do want to tell my story, because I feel like I don't want people to feel like that's not an option, because I do think he was super hesitant, and I really had a lot of support, so I could go out anytime I wanted. There was not a lot of like challenges with like, oh, you want to go on a date? Like he could randomly ask me and I could go, which that could be a challenge for a single mother, right? If you don't have the support. So I think that helped me a lot in my relationship, but also like then it just organically worked, and like he was like, okay, like it's not as bad as I thought, right? Like it did take him to get comfortable, but it happened. It took 3 years. It happened, and we're happy and we blended. So I do think that there are exceptions. Again, I was married, divorced, had 2 kids, came into this situation. So, don't give up hope, women. I think
If he loves you, he'll love those kids.
Yes.
Period. It'll be simple.
Yes. And I agree. And I think that, it can happen for any woman. I'm not like no different from no other woman, like where I'm so exceptional. It happens to me and it can't happen to nobody else. I do believe like it's some amazing people out here that can find the same type of love. So that's just, I want to give my personal story, because
You got to find somebody that
more important.
fits with you.
That's right. And you really can.
Yeah.
I guess it is hope.